Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Nancy Baba Ali. Welcome to another Digital Skillup Africa class. This is project management. Like I said, my name is Nancy Baba Ali, and alongside with me is my co-facilitator, Mr. Kingsley Adiole. We also have my amazing team members that are also with me at the back end. It's nice to have you all today in class and ready to go. Hi, chicks. Welcome to class. Good evening, Basimi. Hi, Yudi. Welcome to class. Um, Good evening, Omolade. It's nice to have you in class today. Hi, Damilare. Welcome to class. Thank you, Oiza. Oiza is one of my backend team members. So welcome to her too as well. So So in the previous class, we were able to talk about roles and responsibilities of team members. Hi to class. It's nice to have you here. Hello, Roland. Welcome to class. Great. So in the last session that we had, can anybody please add or chip into the class what we were able to learn from the last class? We spoke about theme roles and responsibility. Can anyone try to, tell me what they learned in the previous class? Okay, Comfort. Comfort said she learned about teams, which is beautiful. Any other person? The Belby 9 team roles. Thank you, Idache. That's very good as well. Belbin team roles from Oluwafumilayo. Also from Viola, she said she learned team building. Patience said I learned about building a high performance team. Wow, really nice, really good. We talked about Razek Adudi Bisola. Thank you. So my knowledge of the various personas would help me in storming as a future PM. This is from Priscilla Ajor. Yudi said, I learned the characteristics of teams and their strengths and weaknesses. Beautiful. Comfort said, learns about the responsibility assignment matrix Razik. Beautiful. Ahai said, learns about plants, monitor, evaluator, specialist. Perfect. So we saw the full meaning of team, which is together everyone achieve more from Charles. And Ndukuba said, I learned more about teams and the responsibility assignment matrix and how to make use of Razik in particular. This is really beautiful to hear from Chris Ojonos. Amazing. Really amazing. So we could just quickly glance through, have hold of my slides. Okay. Adache said, I learned that I must assign responsibility to every single member of the team and knowing your team members perfectly well. Very nice one. Idache, Andrew. So Grace also added, mostly I learned about identifying my role in a team, which is also very good. So it means that a lot of persons were able to take home something from the previous class. Hi Remy, welcome to class. Yes, I did have an amazing day. I hope you did too as well. Good evening, Oluwaseun. Hi Naomi, welcome to class. So today we're going to be talking more on conflict resolution because we were able to cover team roles and responsibilities. If I may ask, when you hear the term conflict resolution, what comes to you? What comes in mind to you? As the name implies, what comes to you? There are no wrong answers, trust me. There are no wrong answers. Resolving disputes from F. Young. That's a very brief and very on point answer. Lawal Atinuke said resolving issues. Obadele said resolving a disagreement. Akambi said solution to disagreement. Okay said conflict resolution means resolving disagreement. Charles in layman terms said to settle rift. Mary said resolving conflict. Settling issues, the ability to settle conflict amicably. Adedeji. Phil said settle quarrel, which is also very true, very right. What else? Remy said solving problems among people. Okay. Settlement of conflict from Olusola. Okay. To settle disagreement between two or more parties from Sport African Nado. Sorry. Adjo Priscilla said making peace between warring parties. Wow, you sound like a meek person or a preacher of peace. That's really nice. Conflict resolution means resolving differences between team members during the course of a project. That is what Ade Defects Bisola said. So all you have said is really on point. Okay, let's take one more from Esther. Conflict resolution is a process where parties in a disagreement work together to find a mutually acceptable solution. It involves understanding different perspectives, communicating effectively. Hmm, that's a very strong term. Stephen said, "Good evening, Nancy. Oh, okay. You learned about team role responsibility, assignment matrix, and Razek. Thank you for that um, input. So like I said, you all were very on point with your definitions. As the word implies, conflict resolution can be seen as an act in project management or a process of resolving disputes and disagreements between team members, stakeholders, project manager, and team, and different departments, clients, and an organization as a whole. Sorry. So, um, Stephen added that conflict resolution is a mechanism of identifying and settling disputes among team in an organization. Perfect. So in the next slide, all these are very great. So like I said earlier, conflict resolution project management involves identifying, addressing, and resolving disputes, disagreements, conflicts amongst team members, stakeholders, um, project manager, and even the organization as a whole, or project suppliers or researchers, all persons involved in the project. So yes, that is pretty much what conflict resolution is. So we could just move to the next slide. In the next slide, it says we all naturally act or react in certain ways when faced with conflict. There is no bad or wrong way. There are just ways that work better than others in certain situations. So, without a doubt, in a project or even in an organization, right, you will constantly face conflicts. You could face trivial conflicts, you could face um, real challenges from team members, or rather, conflicts from team members and even stakeholders to suppliers to just man in in just man as a factor himself or herself as a factor in project management. Man is one of the major contributor in a project. So when you have just even two persons on a project, there are chances that you still have to face conflict, no matter the level of understanding or level of reasoning or high emotional intelligence each of you have. There is still going to be a point whereby there would be conflict, there would be disagreement, there would be miscommunication. So how we perceive this, how we act during this, or how we handle it as project managers, right? Is that there is always a better way to handle the situation, and you are being trained, you're being skilled on how to handle these situations. So in the next slide, we have Conflict resolution in project management involves identifying, addressing, and resolving disputes or disagreements that arise during a project. Conflicts can occur between team members, stakeholders, project manager, and team. Sorry, there's supposed to be a comma after stakeholders. Team members, project manager, and stakeholders, different departments or organizations. So you may think that it's just going to stop at stakeholders. No. You may think that it stopped just at team members. No. You may think that it may be from departments or organizations. It doesn't just stop there. It also extends to suppliers. It also extends to researchers. It also extend to the man service or man labor that you are paying for or that you are adding to the project. I'm sorry to set this as an example, but how many of you most of the time tend to go online and you see what I ordered and what I get, right? I'm sure you've been able to see those kind of conflicts, right? You've seen that kind of what I ordered and what I get, and you see the whole bashing that happens online, the whole dragging, the whole war, right? The whole conflict that happens. So this could also extend to not just what do you call it? Just even project. It extends out of our lives. So how are you able to handle this? How are you able to tackle it? Because as a project manager, you're definitely going to have conflict with your stakeholders. You could have a project whereby you are meant to draft out um a good there is already an agreement, right? That let's say in the wardrobes in the building, let's say the interior decor that's meant to be used is meant to be used white marbles. It's all signed, it's all agreed. The stakeholders are even the ones that asked you to get white marbles for the cabinets or the aisles, whatever, the tiles, whatever, in the kitchen. Let's just use one space in the kitchen. And at the end of the project, there could be a conflict whereby the stakeholder could say, "Oh, I don't like this marbled cabinet. Why would you agree to me choosing white marble when you knew that it was going to clash with the paints on the wall, with the painting on the wall? Or why would you approve of the um the interior decorator getting this type of marble? I didn't want this kind of marble. I said I wanted plain marble. I didn't want a marble with black designs in it." You can see that as little as this may sound, it could be a serious conflict if not managed properly. So these are very little tiny instances that I'm giving you, right? That you could face with your stakeholders. With your team members, you could have miscommunications amongst themselves, whereby a team member is being disrespected by another team member, or you yourself as a project manager, you're not excluded from conflict. You could be attacked by maybe a team member for maybe doing your work. Maybe to them you're not doing your work as efficiently. They feel they can do better. You would meet people like that will tell you, "What are you doing? You're not doing your job, right? I can do better." When maybe this is just their first year working in maybe that project. And because they come from a different eye, they believe that they can do everything. Conflict does not still ignores you. It will still come to you, right? You could be disrespected, you could be attacked, you could face a lot of challenges with some of those persons, from team members to the stakeholders and the likes of them. But how you handle this is what makes you a a project manager, because I'm going to tell you um, one of the strategies that you could use for conflict resolution. So let's move to the next slide. So Thomas-Kilmann has developed the following metrics that explains the different strategies people use to manage conflict. Right. And we have like 5 pointers on how this strategy work. We have the accommodating, compromising, collaborating or problem solving, avoiding and forcing. And we have two arrows that leads from high to low, which is the interest in the other, and we have the low and to high, which is interest in oneself. When handling it, you should notice the level in which the interest in the other is. Is it low? Is it high? And if it's interest in oneself, is it also low? Is it high? And is it something you can avoid? Is it something that you deny the existence of the conflict so that you can hide your true feelings? Is it something that you can force a solution to impose on the other person's will? Yeah, I'm going to show you the slide, Mary. Is it something that you feel the need to compromise, which is bargaining for gains? And is it also something that you can accommodate if it's at the high, playing down the conflict and seeking harmony among the parties, and collaborating or problem solving, searching for solutions that meet each other's needs? Don't worry, I'm going to show the slide. So this is the slide from Thomas-Kilmann. It's a strategy, a conflict management strategy. So under interest in the other, you could see there is low and there is high, right? There is low and there is high. So when under the low of interest in the other, we have low and high, and under interest in oneself, we have low to high too as well. Both with the arrows facing adjacent to each other, right? And under the interest in the other, we have the low and high, which is avoiding, denying the existence of conflict, and hiding one's true feeling. If it's interest in the other person, is it something that you feel is not really at a point where you feel the need um to react? Do you think it's something that you just need to hide your feelings just to make sure that you are seeing professional and handle the situation properly? Is this something you can you need to avoid, to pretend it doesn't exist so that you can just be more professional and make sure that the project reaches its optimum goal? And if it's something at its high, are you going to accommodate it for other persons amongst the team members and downplay the situation to make sure that there is harmony and how do you call it? There is harmony and peace among team members. I would give another example when it comes to accommodating at high. So there was this one time at my office, one of my projects that I was handling. We had a situation whereby a volunteer was very rude to a co-project manager. In my field, I have already told you previously, we do something called the Meyer the Meyer scheme, which is respecting each other. But as a volunteer, we didn't have as much time to debrief them. We just gave them the debriefing, and this was an inside course that our team members were on the situation. So, whilst the team member was very rude to my co-project manager, we were just able to look at each other and we're able to say it's not that deep. It hurts, of course, being disrespected by your junior, not even your junior. Like this person is not even your team member, and being disrespected by this person, it just shows the level of childishness, or rather of unprofessionality that this person have, and it was obviously a mistake from our own end to have this person on this project, right? So we just looked at each other and with fellow team members, and we just looked at each other and we just said, it's not that deep. It's not that deep. It's not that deep. It's not that deep. Of course, we had to tell her sorry, sorry, because it's she's not plastic. She's not iron. So we still had to apologize. So we just immediately avoided the case. If we hadn't avoided the situation, she would have maybe wanted to show him a form of power play. She would have refused to assign him to some task. She would have told him to leave the vicinity regardless, because we had multiple hands and having one hand wouldn't, affect us. But at some point, we still needed to just be professional, right? We still had to be professional. So at some point, you need to look inward and be like, okay, this person is still not as matured as I am or emotionally intelligent. So this is just something I should avoid. Or this is something that you can tell other persons to also avoid. So you see how it interests in oneself and also interests in the other. This is a way you can apply it to other persons, because it's not just for you, it's also for the other person too as well. So you have to look at it. So that's avoiding, this is a point when you can put it in both lows. And then in forcing, we have forcing a solution to impose one's will on the other, which is high on interest on oneself. In interest of oneself, when you, let me still use the situation. In the fact that we had this problem, we had this challenge, right? We were just able to just tell him to move into the vicinity, to move into the hall, and to take pictures of the event. That was something that on a natural day we would have told him, please just leave the vicinity, or call security to get him out. But we gave him another job to do, and with time, him himself, by the end of the program of that day, because it was a 3-day program, he came and had to apologize properly from his own end, that he was sorry. So we gave him another task to enforce him to work, and definitely he was able to have some level of reasoning to understand that what he did was wrong and he couldn't face her. So he was able to manage the conflict from his own end by us imposing another thing for him to do. So that is another way to handle this kind of conflict, by just redirecting this person to do another task. It could still be in the field, it could be in a different field, but it's just for a way to just enforce um, a job or a task for this person to do. Because maybe this person was even idle and that was why he misbehaved or acted the way he did. But just understanding that people can be people, yeah, it's a big thing. So Oluboju Ezekiel said, Miss Nancy, it's a true life experience. A subordinate once told me he or he's more intelligent than I am. Well, you see, it's something that happens, right? And then we have interest in the other. We have the high. On the high, we have accommodating, playing down the conflict and seeking harmony among the parties. So I'm still going to use this case study. Whilst this person was rude to just my co-project manager, I as well was involved in this situation, and I had the composure, because naturally I could have thrown a fit too as well, but we had so much work on our hands. we just at the end of the day decided that okay, let us just laugh it out with the others. And we had very funny comic relief persons in the team members that were just making jokes and all, and we're just, teasing. So we were all able to just forget it ever happened and just focus on work. Because as much as it was something that could have slowed everybody down, would have made morale go down. It was something we're still able to overlook and just have harmony. It even made some of the team members and some of the volunteers and we, the project managers, closer to some persons in the volunteering group, because there were some persons that were our favorites because at that moment they were there and they were able to apologize and try to make jokes. And it just has a way of still bringing some form of care, and you just feel some form of understanding with everybody. Everybody's tensed, everybody's on high horse, and nobody's job is easy. So we're able to just downplay the situation, like I said, and still we're able to just have jokes and plays with the volunteers. If it were in other organizations, the volunteers will be re-evaluated and thrown out because, if one person was able to disrespect a project manager, the rest might likely do the same. But because of we were understanding persons, we just decided to just make a joke out of it and focus on what we think was much more important, which was the project. So, under collaborating or problem solving, we have searching for a solution that meets each other's needs. So, like I said, there could be a chance that he was just idle and he needed something to do, or he's at some point he lost what his responsibilities were, and we had to just redirect him to do the proper thing, right? So collaborating with these persons too, regardless, and understanding what they can do, their capability and capacity, you could still learn to still just collaborate with them and work with them. Your emotions are valid, very much valid as a person. Being disrespected is no icing, it's no cake, it's no sweet. But the fact that you are able to be professional in this kind of situation speaks volumes about you as a project manager. And we have compromising. If you notice, compromising goes into all the boxes. It still has a way of slipping into accommodating, avoiding, forcing, and collaborating. So it has a way of bargaining for gains. You bargain with the persons that are in this situation. You just try to understand, and as a project manager, I'm sorry, you would have to learn to compromise sometimes. You would have to learn to be the bigger person. It's not easy, but you have to learn to do that. So this conflict management strategy is for low interest of in the other, and we have low and high interest in oneself. So Stephen asked the question, at Nancy, don't you think avoiding can sometimes make the rude member not see anything wrong with his behavior and can lead to reoccurrence of such behavior? Okay, I'm so sorry to not give you the complete story. So at the end of the day, though we were able to avoid the situation with this person, the person had a reflection in himself and came and apologized. And notwithstanding, we ourselves as project managers, we saw it we deemed it as a priority to speak to all the volunteers at the end of the day, and specifically to that person. If you could publicly embarrass a project manager, we could publicly call you out and say what you did was very disrespectful and it shouldn't happen to yourself or to any of the team members. We just let everybody do their tasks and do their job properly. And we still had to hold that meeting with these volunteers and be like, um, being disrespected even by your team members is not allowed. There is no way you don't see me disrespecting you in any way. So I see no reason why you should disrespect me in any way. We're able to instill some form of respect work workspace amongst them and also us the team members. And we did also another thing. We were able to finish the program after the third day. We waited till after a week. We then did a post evaluation meeting with this volunteers and team members where we let them vent out what they felt was wrong, what they felt we could have done better, who hurt you, who didn't hurt you. Yeah, we had that closure with them, and some persons still came out and be like, they misunderstood you or and all of that, and you still have to calmly still tell them, oh yeah, why I acted the way I did was because you were lagging. I cannot see you lagging and cannot approach you. I have to approach you because that is my job. I'm doing my job. I'm being paid to do this. So these are things you have to put into consideration. You also have to make sure that even though it's an issue that was avoided, it still has to be spoken about. You could do this like by the end of the day. Professionally, you could do it even personally, but professionally, it's not acceptable for somebody to disrespect you in a professional setting. I believe there should be some level of decorum or some ethics. And that's one thing again when you mix personal works with professional, when you have personal relationships with persons and they start to overstep, forgetting that you're in an office space or in a cubicle that everybody, or an organization that everybody needs to be on their toes, right? So, Gola said, I don't think forcing can work because of different people working together. It depends on how you implement it, right? Lowell said, I can totally relate with you. One of my team members was transferred to another team because she was instigating conflicts with the supervisor among other team members. So, yes, most of the time we tend to get a lot of conflicts with team members and the likes of them. So, DJ asked a question: how do you resolve cases where a superior disrespects a subordinate, whilst the subordinate is trying to be professional without reacting? So it depends. That's actually a very touchy topic. Most of the time, most superiors, right? Uh, you should. I feel you should also understand. Most superiors sometimes come from a place of pressure. They come from a place of tension, pressure and tension. They could be very tense, they could be really pressured. And most of the times the disrespect that they might be disrespecting you based on a project could be just because of the pressure or tension that they are being faced with. You may not be able to see half of the stress they go through. But the moment you step maybe a mile in their shoes, you may be able to see it. So I'd advise that you just be compromising at some point and just let them vent out. Just understand that just because they're your subordinates, sorry, your superiors, doesn't mean that they're not human beings too as well. They also have lacking times. They have times where they fail, and they have times whereby they can be biased too as well. If this situation ever happens to you and your boss maybe disrespects you, I'd really advise that it's either you report the person to HR or you meet the person, you could meet the superior. Trust me, most of them aren't really lions as we picture them to be. They are also human beings that just also want to be heard and also want to be understood. You could reach out to them and be like, okay, the reason why I acted the way I did in a very much calm situation, the reason why I acted the way I did is because of I had this notion and I felt this notion would have been better for the team and da 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 dash. And most of the time it works. But I'm sure you have some persons also have very difficult and a bit, special bosses. These persons too, if you give them room for you to be able to accommodate the let's say the conflict rather than disrespect, to accommodate it or something you avoid, it's up to you to choose. Is it an all-time high? Is it an all-time low? Is it something you can avoid? Is it something that you'd have to deviate your what do you call, you'd have to deviate your mind focus to focus on something to help you forget about the situation? Or is it something that you would have to make sure that you go meet other team members to not go and complain about your boss, to just have a fun interactive moment so that you can dial down and calm down? That's the way to also handle conflict. And please, the next time you see the person, just still be smiley and kind, because most of the times that they're harsh, it's not because of they wish to be. They might be going through something, and maybe there could be high level of miscommunication going on between you and the so-called persons. Yeah, thank you, Martha, for saying that. So Olu Baju said sometimes PM might be the cause of the conflict. There is nothing wrong to apologize. The result is key. Yes. So Mayo said DJ, if it's a continuous issue, just report to HR. But at the same time, you have to be careful. Yes, Miles, very, very careful of how you use your words. And who else had something to say? So um please, you mentioned how to learn how to compromise. What if a state whereby I'm not a kind of person that compromises? So what will I do, or what's the advice? Damilare, I really don't know how to place it, but sometimes as a project manager, you could be met at very high pressure, whereby you need to make sure that you resolve some issues. And if you communicate that to your team members in a different tone, or in a very harsh manner, that could be a serious problem. But I'd advise you that for each person, right? For starters, this is just a point. For starters, I would advise you that each person in your team, make sure to just have three strikes for compromising. Yeah. Just make sure to have three strikes for compromising. Strike one, you can compromise. Strike two, you can compromise. Strike three, you can compromise. By the fourth time, you could take whatever action may be needed. If you notice that this person keeps making the same mistake, you can communicate it that, okay, I am not going to do this anymore to you. I will let you be an adult and take responsibilities for your actions. Right. So Comfort Grace said most times some people are really difficult to work with. They are naturally unapologetic and adamant to correction, especially those specialists in some field. They just turn off any contribution. Yes, hence why, as a project manager, when you're doing your roles responsibility or selecting your team members, you have already seen the steps you need to take in order to work with persons in a team. And if there are team members that have already been selected, you also know how to handle those kind of persons by understanding the kind of person that they are and knowing what methodology you should implement for them. So in the next slide, okay, what about some bosses that is difficult to listen or take a feedback from her employer? Hmm. Okay, I really don't know how to put this. Most of the time, I'm sorry, I've been blessed to have employers that are really lenient and are always willing to learn and understand. So I've hardly had a situation whereby I had to have a boss that was not approachable. I feel for you to even be in a position, in a very high ranking position, you need to learn, you need to have core values of how to be humble, understanding, willing to learn, and kind, have empathy. So, for you to have a very strong minded individual that can be adamant, I feel a way to go about it is also to just be understanding, is just to be accommodating, and just to avoid this kind of persons as much as possible, because if you don't, at some point your mental health too would be at stake. So I always advise your mental health is very important to you as well as a person, as a project manager. So in the next slide we have, when possible, do try the collaboration strategy. It may give surprising results, and in any case, the conflict will disappear into thin air, replaced by a common problem to solve. Instead of using words like you and me, we start to use the word us and we. We stop taking positions and start to be able to see the bigger picture and become more creative about the solutions. So, what this is just saying in a nutshell is that you could also make sure to collaborate with team members, collaborate with persons on how to, or when you see that team members are having conflicts or persons are having conflict, always make sure to have like tasks that everybody can join in, everybody can chip in. The moment everybody can chip in, that gives a room that everybody must have to speak to each other. Everybody has to talk to each other. Everybody has to make sure to chip in something. Failure to do that just shows unprofessionalism and disrespect to whoever is in charge. So, and to you too as a project manager. So, always make sure to make tasks or to give tasks that everybody can chip in that team member. You can do team bonding exercises that could be practical and make them to bond well so that it could remove conflict. Trust me, I've had situations whereby I wasn't really the best of co-worker with some of my team members in my very past life, my very past before. But I had team bonding situations with such team members. I worked in a private sector whereby everybody minds their business. Everybody could be flexible in wherever they wish to be, and you don't necessarily have to talk to anybody, you just have to send mails, and that's all. Or everybody just has to do their job description, and that's all. And I didn't have any need to grow any relationship with any of my coworkers unless I needed to. So this made me to not to collaborate with most people. But then when we had a team bonding exercise, we had a project whereby everybody's hands were needed on deck. I found out that these persons that I was minding my business and in my own cubicle about are actually amazing people. So we were able to actually confess that we never really, saw the need to interact with each other. We never really saw the need to care about what the other person was doing. And I actually learned a lot from that person. So always make sure to have like projects that can make sure everybody has to talk to another person. And even if those persons are having conflict, it's something that they have to work together. Something that you have to work with somebody and there is respect, and you've taught them the core values of team membership. I can assure you that it could reduce the level of conflict or even make it invincible at some point. So yes, Dollar said humble and empathy. Some bosses, oh god, okay, they 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 do, they do. It's just maybe they do not want to be seen in some light, right? Maybe as weak, but it's I'm sure they are very humble and empathetic too. So Tobilola said, I have been in a situation here. A colleague picked quarrel with me because I had leave a meeting where I had to review the team's performance and didn't speak with me for a period of time. I'm really sorry about that, Tobilola. It happens, right? Miscommunications, and sometimes people don't understand the other person before they start judging. So from time to time, you yourself, you can take it upon yourself to just say good morning, and just from that good morning, it could soften up the person, and you have a very understandable workspace with this person. So it's about time for us to go on a break. Um, we will be going on a short break right now so that you can start taking your attendance. Oh, okay. So, okay, sorry. We have 5 more minutes before you can take attendance. So please, does anybody have any questions? Okay, so anybody has a question? Um Sarah Pius said, do we have two project management classes? I'm sorry, this is the only project management class, my dear. Um Ndu Kuba said, my stakeholder told me to be making use of we and not I because of the new team member. Making sense to me now. Yeah, when people feel like you are carrying them um, along, when people feel the need that they too have a place in a team, they tend to be more proactive. They tend to be more trustworthy, trusting rather, and open to um, collaboration. And it's just an easier workspace to be in. So Tobila said he felt I was witch hunting him, but I was able to keep him understand some KPIs he had issues with. So on my birthday, when they were all talking, I was surprised he said I am a kind person. Okay, that is actually a very um funny situation. So Tobila's first side was I have been in a situation here, a colleague picked a quarrel with me because I leave a meeting and had to review the team performance and didn't speak with me for a period of time. And then the continuous part of that story was he felt I was witch hunting him, but I was able to help him understand some KPIs he had issues with. So on my birthday, when they were all talking, I was surprised he said I am a kind person. So yeah, there is always that misunderstanding that people will um always have of a person, a wrong perception about you, even as a project manager. No matter how you think you're nice, people will always have some perception too as well about you. So just do your best to still be nice regardless and just be kind, because As much as we say don't judge people, a lot of people will judge you just from even your looks. So just regardless, try to just be a kind person. So Sarah said perhaps you mistook the other to be project management class, product management. Okay. What can you do when one of your member is intentionally making the work difficult by procrastinating, which affects the whole team? Well, we can't take action because they are connected to the boss. Oh my goodness, comfort. As much as the person is connected to the boss, I feel the person at first was hired because of they thought the person was competent enough to do the job. So it's something that I feel you could um um communicate it to somebody higher, or try communicating it to the person first and understand why the person is acting the way the person is acting. If you notice that the person is acting in a manner that maybe stems from something, you could also try to find a solution for that person. And if need be that you have tried communicating to this person and this person does not see reason with you, I feel you could go ahead and talk to the boss regardless. Go ahead and talk to the boss that this person has not been doing his or her job well and is affecting the team. You have tried, or your team members have tried to get some level of um, productivity out of this person, but the person is the reason why the project is lagging. But I would always advise you to first reach out to this person and try to understand the person before you take it up ahead. So Steven said, yes, I just to find out to what level or degree can compromising be tolerated in conflict resolution as not to impact on the overall project performance. As much as you would want to be compromising for everything, you need to also learn to be able to avoid or to collaborate or to enforce or how to enforce other methodologies that you could be able to handle a project. Remember, when it's interest in oneself, you could check the lows and highs, and when it has interest on others, you could also check about the lows and highs too as well. So yes, these are the five ways I feel you could just try to feel which of the methodology you can work with best, that still doesn't take you far from compromising and still helps you to get the job done. Akanu said, good evening. I always thought being a project manager was a need to be harsh. No, 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 no. You do not need to be harsh when you're a project manager. It's just that I'm sure most of the times that you've met project managers is that they were very strict and dominant, but they're not really harsh. You, like I said, you do not know the pressure that he or she is going behind the covers till you understand. And most time, persons or team members tend to be lagging when it comes to work. So, hence why they might want to deviate into that form of, communication with team members. So, you should take your attendance while we go on the break and then come back for the next topic. Thank you. Okay,
Okay, okay.
welcome back, class. Um, we need to go back to the slides. Right. Um, okay, so we're now on communication, right? And when you hear communication, what comes into your mind? What comes to your head the moment you hear communication? What is the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear communication? Feedback, okay, from Ebenezer. Thank you. Talking, engaging, okay. Communication is the art of relaying information. Okay, all this are good. Ajo Priscilla said, communication is all about passing a message across. Stephen said, talking, which is very true, very valid. Olukotun said, a means of passing information. Oluwafemi, Oluwafumilayo said, sharing of ideas. So Abigail Essien said, communication means being able to pass across a message and be understood. All these are very valid explanations or definitions of communication. Gladys said talking and engaging. Oyetide said passing and receiving information. Fisayo said talking, listening, passing across information, and ensuring it is understood. All those are very valid. So, on the communication, it is said that communication is the oil that helps the wheel of a project and of any organization turn smoothly. We never communicate enough, and rarely do we communicate consistently as we ought to. So the problem with communication is that everyone does it more or less well, and we all expect and assume that the messages get through. The problems is that there are many barriers, filters in the communication process. We have the semantic problems, absence of feedback, improper channels, physical distractions, status effects, and cultural differences. So, if we are going to take semantic, it's what is semantic? Semantic is pretty much relating to meaning in language or logic. So, you could have a team member that has problems when it comes to understanding body language or a form of logic when it comes to communication. And then we have absence of feedback. In times or situations whereby you have team members that you have already given a task to do and they don't get back to you, you might feel like, okay, this person does not take me serious and I am not going to tolerate anything this person has to do because why haven't you given me feedback? So, because of you have no feedback to work with, you might pick a much more um harsher way, or you might be too dominating, or you might be blatantly biased with your communication process or how you relate with this person, right? So the act of passing information is very important. And in the absence of feedback, it's just like when somebody communicates with you and you don't hear from the person for maybe like a period of time. You cannot make a decision based on just what you know. You need the person's feedback to be able to know what next to do, right? So absence of feedback is very important when it comes to communication too as well. We have improper challenges and channels, sorry. The channels that you use to communicate to persons too sometimes, or at the times you communicate them, may not be the best. So for much more professional settings, persons like to communicate through what do you call it? Sorry, through mails or through Teams app or through Slack or professional form of communications. And then there are some persons that may prefer calls or text messages. And then there are some persons that they prefer seeing you face to face to communicate. So yeah, Stephen said communication is not complete until there's a feedback. To add to the absence of feedback that I mentioned earlier. So we have improper channels. You have to pick the right channels that you'll be able to communicate with your team members so that there are no rooms for lapses, or there are no rooms for unprofessionalism. Because as much as we like to use WhatsApp, funny enough, to as a direct form, because everybody has WhatsApp, everybody's using WhatsApp, right? The person could say he or she might have not gotten your message because on a daily basis that person could be talking to like at least 20 to maybe 25 persons in a day. So even if the person got your message, the person was too busy to attend to your message because your message could go all the way down. Unlike emails, when you see them, you know they are prompt and they need to be attended to. So yeah, so we have physical distractions. Physical distractions could be, for example, you could be in a place that you cannot communicate properly, or like maybe there's music in the background, there's noise in the background. Maybe the colors of the building is distracting. Colors too also play a very major role in an office section, in an office sector, or sorry, in a sector or in an office space. Sorry, in an office space, colors play a very important role, because if you notice, most of the times, most offices tend to be white, plain white, or cream, or very plain neutral colors. This is so that you can have some level of focus, right? So they can have some level of focus. Colors play very important roles too as well. And then we have status effects. So some persons, not because of they are willing to have this flaw or this defect. There are some persons that have inferiority complex. They might, because of you maybe are their project manager, or they feel you are maybe at a higher position than they are, they would not be able to communicate clearly with you. There's some people that when you talk to them, to reply you, they will be stuttering. They could stutter. They stutter. So that's also like a problem too as well when it comes to communication. And then we have cultural differences, the most clear ones. There are some persons we all come from different backgrounds. We all have different morals. We all have different ways that we were brought up, right? So um, when a person that before he leaves his house or whilst you were growing up, they taught you that you have to greet everybody and say good morning, ways. There are so many ways that can can you hear me? Because somebody said lost sound. Okay, great. You can hear me now. So there are so many ways that there are persons um, that there are so many ways that persons might be able to have different cultural backgrounds that they might find some things offensive. There are some things that they might find irritating as a person to say to them, and while there are some that could say that you know your mannerism too, right, could be a problem. So always keep in mind that we have different cultural backgrounds, we have cultural differences, that not everybody is is used to it. So you have to also look at that as a problem or as a factor or as a challenge to handle. Sorry guys, I was having some issues with the network. So yeah, but the slides will be right up. Sorry about that. So so like I said, cultural differences can also play a factor, and also positions too as well. There are persons that may not be able to
sorry, there are persons that may not be able to um face their bosses based on positions. And I mentioned of the fact of some people have inferiority complex, right? So you should also be an approachable person. As much as this is not your fault that they have inferiority complex, this is not your fault that they possess such attributes. You also have to be considerate about the fact that these are um, attributes that you yourself as a project manager should be able to work on. You should be able to be approachable. You should be able to be seen as empathetic. You should be able to be seen as kind. Um. Someone asked a question in regards to how colors play a very important um role as well in an office space. Have you ever been into an office space that had yellow, green, red, um, purple, just an office space that would have so many colors? That's very distracting. Very distracting. I'm sure you've heard of HDHD, ADHD. Sorry, it's a disorder for persons that can easily um get distracted at some point. They could start attacks, and because of you know the slightest of change, they would be able to get distracted and not get the major job that they're trying to do done. So it colors play a very important role, and due to this, most of most organizations tend to use very plain neutral colors that will not be something that would distract people, but also be able to improve productivity and just keep them at a neutral tone. Okay. Um, can you hear me now? You say my volume is pretty low. Can you hear me now? Okay, great. Sorry about that. Someone said you must have experienced effects of cultural difference on your project. How did you handle it? Okay, from where I come from, I come from the north. We are very calm people. We are very calm people. We are very respectful of one another. We believe in the importance um of being quiet and respectful to your elders and to be humble, right? We are giving that theory. It is instilled in, I don't know, from when people from the north, from where I come from, right? Respect is number one. Um, you must learn how to greet people, your elders, and even your juniors. You must learn to respect people. You must learn to be decent when it comes to dressing, when it also comes to speaking. You must learn to be accommodating of whoever and however and whenever, right? So I was a bit shocked working with some other regions. I'm not going to lie. I have worked with some persons from the west. I've been able to work with some persons from the east. I've been able to work with people from other countries and regions and the likes of them. And I will tell you, it was never really easy. It was never really something that I thought I could handle on my own. It was never something I thought I could handle on my own. But eventually, uh, I had to adapt. Sometimes people from I'm not gonna call this region tend to tend to believe that they're smarter, they're wiser, and they know it all because of they have sometimes they have a stereotype for persons that are still in a box. I want to believe that they're still in a box, and we have persons that are very warming, homey, and understanding, and then we have persons that are very chaotic. I'm not going to even blame it on on their regions. I'm going to just blame it on their first line of upbringing, right? So or their environment that they have been or where they grew up or what they grew up seeing. I don't know. So to do that was that I was still able to avoid a lot of the conflicts that were thrown at me. I was still able to be approachable to this kind of persons, regardless, because I am their project manager, I am their caretaker, I am the persons in charge of them. So, regardless of how they react, how they behave, I have a job to um, which is to ensure that we reach a goal. We are able to at the end of the day have a report to give back of what everybody has been doing and what I myself have been able to do, right? So these are things that I did to be able to handle the situation. So we're still having some issues. I'm sorry to the slides being shared. I don't know why that is still a problem. Um, Okay, so finally we've been able to solve the issue. Sorry. Um, so please, this is keep going all the way to communication. Um, keep going, keep going. Philip, is there a conflict right now? No, there is no conflict right now. We are just having some little technical difficulties. Sorry, guys. I apologize. Yeah, so um, we are almost on the slide. Next, please. Next. Okay, please go back. Go back again. Go back. Back again, please. Back. Okay, so we could just take off from here. Thank you to my team members that were able to help out. We've been able to sort some of the issues. Um, welcome back, everybody. Sorry about that little fallback. So yeah, communications. Let's just go straight into it. Communication should include speaking opportunities for managers, informal communications, face-to-face discussions, scheduled meetings, and orchestration of senior management, and ad hoc communications, as well as formal methods such as memos, notice boards, emails, and newsletters. So remember when I told you that the channel that you use for communication is very, very important. The channels that you decide to use for
is very, very important. can you hear me now? Because a lot of persons have been complaining about my audio. Thank you. So, to eradicate all those challenges when it comes to communication, the barriers, have face to face discussions with your team members. Schedule meetings and make sure that senior management and all that needs to be there, stakeholders are also there. Make sure that you use memos and emails and notice boards and newsletters as well to communicate to your team members. Like I also said, make sure to be approachable, humble, kind, and accommodative to your team members too as well. So a communication plan should both be a dynamic document used for the management and control of planned communications, and also a vehicle for leveraging benefits from unplanned but equally important events. The management of such events is eased by clarity of understanding as to the progress of the project as a whole, the difficulties being encountered, and the steps being taken to address such issues. The stronger and more robust the communications base, the greater the chance to secure a clarity of purpose and a common understanding of progress within a project such as this. So, what this is pretty much entailing is that although we'll be able to clear out all the challenges, that all the barriers, and found out results on how we can handle all of this, right? The necessary steps that are meant to be taken is that even though yes you have better channels of communication with your team members, yes you have face to face meetings with your team members, yes you plan events, everybody most likely have their calendars tick, it is very much also advisable that your communication plan too is pre-planned. You cannot just communicate with people vaguely. You also have to communicate clearly. So you see how we were having issues. My audio was very low. We had issues with the slide. That could be a very good example of communication barrier, right? You not being able to hear me audibly could have or had actually affected you learning something. You learning something or you picking something up, right? So being clear, being visible, understanding, using layman terms or even company terms or organizational terms, agency terms, work terms is something that you should always factor in when it comes to your communication. There's some terms that you cannot be using in some organizations. There's some words that shouldn't be acceptable in your communications. There's some tones that you shouldn't use when communicating to team members, stakeholders, and pretty much you being a project manager you know at a broader view. So these are things that you have to put into consideration. Understanding, and also make sure that even in your communication plan, it is written down. It's something that it's understandable for your team members to read and understand, because most time even when you communicate, you speak, some people prefer going back or even reading. How many of you notice when you're having a meeting, or let me even use Netflix, sorry I'm using Netflix, but when people are when you're watching a movie, you tend to read the subtitles, right? Or for persons that watch Korean movies or Indian movies, I'm sure that it's a different language, but you are able to read the subtitles and understand, right? You're able to read and understand. So make sure that even though you're communication may not be as clear, but what people need to read and understand should be clear. One has to be able to balance the other. So, feedback and monitoring of communication is key to the whole process, as this makes the activity a two-way process whereby questions can be raised and answered rather than a one way tell them approach. It is essential to ensure that the reality of communication strategy being two-way is demonstrated on a regular basis by responding efficiently to questions and suggestions publicly and by using an interactive tool such as the internet. Monitoring of communications is important to assess whether the messages intended are actually being received by the workforce or other key stakeholder groups. So, um, I think it was Joel that made a point that said communication is a two-way thing, or was it Joy? Somebody mentioned it that communication is a two-way thing. It's you have to have a giver and you have to have a receiver. The giver is giving out raw information and you are receiving it and processing it and giving back data, right? Or you are taking data and processing it and returning back data, right? So, because we're not computers, you are exchanging data, and to exchange data, you have to have accurate data, you have to have clear data, you have to have understandable data. For what example can I give to you? For example, um, when you're being spoken to as a project manager, you should always be willing to listen. There are times that and instances that you will feel like this person does not even know what he or she is saying. I should better stop this person before this person maybe um, annoys me or communicates something that I'm not going to really be appreciative of. But I would really advise you as a project manager to always listen, process before you speak. Um, I like to apply this whenever I'm asked a question. I like to take 3 seconds to process it, even more than 3 seconds to process it, and then give accurate data or speak in a very calm and understanding tone. Or if I notice that I am getting angry or I am irritated, I just tend to wish, or I hope, I hope to say it in the most nicest way. I'm sorry, right now I am not in the best state of mind. You maybe have caught me at a bad time. Do you mind coming back another time? Almost likely just text me or send me a mail, right? But right now I'm not in the right framework to reply your message. And the person fully understanding that you're not in the mood could also calm down. And I always make it a priority for me to always make sure to reach out to the persons and say, oh, I'm sorry for the way I reacted earlier. It was unprofessional, or regardless of it being professional, I shouldn't have gotten angry in the first place. I should have tried to control myself, right? Even though I did, you still have to just be apologetic and be like, I'm sorry for losing my head for a minute. I just needed to be away. And now that I'm at a better framework, I can um, receive your I can take in, I can assimilate what you have to say to me and give you an accurate reply or data that you can work with that doesn't jeopardize the project or does not jeopardize your work or my work here. So um oh, sorry, the slides went down. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, Stella. It's okay to feel irritated, but one must stay calm, not too quick to speak. Yes. because when talking when you are irritated, you can have very wrong facial expressions. You could say very wrong things that could come off to the other person at a very wrong way, hence the person feeling less, or um feeling less of himself or herself. So just always be emotionally aware when you notice that you're not in the best mood or best state to reply somebody, and excuse yourself from the situation as much as possible, or as effective as possible. So yeah, so the communication process needs to be sufficiently flexible to adapt to the changing needs of either the sources or the receivers of information. This is particularly the case with this project, where there will be a need to communicate across and within departments. These communication plans include the infrastructure for dissemination of information throughout the departments involved, the allocated responsibilities, and expected timetable of events. What this slide is just saying is that when you, as a project manager, you're all about planning, right? So make sure that when you're communicating this is clear, this is precise, and this is understandable, and it's not something that somebody can mistake or misunderstand. If anybody misunderstands it, maybe they were not able to go through um the report or through the calendar properly. So it should not be your fault. Just try your best to make sure that it is easy and understandable. Communication plan is a living document, and as such will evolve over time, and is made up of a number of key outputs, which together form a detailed communication plan. So in a communication plan, this is the methodology you could use to apply to make sure that you communicate properly.
God, you kept